The last couple of days have been crazy in terms of MLB storylines. You have Dylan Cease going to the Toronto Blue Jays on a 7-year, $210 million contract. The deal came out a few hours ago. John Heyman was the first to report. You have Sonny Gray getting traded to the Red Sox, and you have a couple other trades that we're going to discuss over the course of this video. Way to combine a lot of these stories that have been happening over the last couple of days instead of making them all in their own separate videos. I might go in depth to some of these stories as we move along. Let's dive into Dylan Cease going to the Toronto Blue Jays. It seems like the knee-jerk reaction from fans and Blue Jays fans is that they look at this as an overpay. The first thing I'm going to say when it comes to pitching on the open market in Major League Baseball, especially the last few years, is guys are going to be overpaid. Even if they are one of the best pitchers in the league, the amount of money you're going to have to throw, even at middle to low-end starting pitching, could be a lot higher than teams would anticipate because of a competitive market. Everybody's always looking for starting pitching, and especially somebody who has all-star caliber stuff and provide ace-level stuff like Dylan Cease can. He is going to garner a pretty hefty contract, and 7 years for $210 is a pretty hefty contract. This past season wasn't the best season for him and kind of earned the reputation of being a even-year pitcher. The last 2 years, 2022 and 2024, he finished top 5 in the Cy Young Award voting. He was the runner-up in 2022, and you're slotting him in to a rotation where he could be the number 1 or number 2, depending how Blue Jays fans value how well do you guys value Kevin Gausman. You can slide him as the number 1, number 2. You have that rotation surrounded with Kevin Gausman, Trey Savage, who was great in the postseason. It looks like he has a very, very successful career ahead of him. You have Jose Barrios, Shane Bieber, somebody else who decided to come back. Dylan Cease is one of the premier strikeout artists in baseball. His whiff rates were through the roof. He was still leading the league in strikeouts per 9. Personally, I love the move for the Blue Jays. I think it's a great way to show the fan base that you're still trying to go for it. You're still trying to be aggressive in this window that you've opened for yourselves, being so close from winning the World Series against the Dodgers this past season. Bringing in somebody like Dylan Cease is going to really solidify that starting rotation. It's one of the best looking starting rotations going into next year already. So I really love this for the Blue Jays. I'm not sure where this leads them in terms of reuniting with Bo Bichette or going out and getting one of those premier bats on the market. I know they've been linked to Kyle Tucker as well. The price tag for Cease is a necessary sacrifice you're going to have to make if you want to compete for World Series. Remember the uncertainty surrounded by somebody's like long-term future of Kevin Gausman, who's going to be a free agent in the next couple of years, Shane Bieber. You paid Vlad a ton of money to stick around. Cease is their big pitching acquisition, so now they're going to be looking towards the offensive side. Maybe get another reliever, that wouldn't hurt. The Blue Jays are making it known that they're not looking at this past season as a fluke, as an overachievement. The fact that they went out and got one of the premier arms on the market speaks volumes to how that franchise is viewing themselves right now. They're in win now mode, and this is exactly what I would want to expect out of the Blue Jays. A reactionary decision, but in the best possible way, going out and getting a premier arm like Dylan Cease to really solidify a place of need, and that was the starting pitching. So I love this for the Blue Jays. Another problem people had with it was the amount of years. Like Dylan Cease is going to be 36 by the time this contract is over. Looking at guys like DeGrom and Kevin Gausman and guys in their mid-30s, the longevity of good starting pitchers has been extended over the last few years in Major League Baseball. But regardless, you're looking at this next 4-year window. Dylan Cease, fantastic pickup for them. You can deal with the 35, 36-year-old version of him if he really just falls off a cliff. He's somebody who's going to log innings for you. He's a workhorse. The Blue Jays had to make a big splash, especially for a franchise that's been chasing after the big fish year after year after year. They finally got one in Dylan Cease, and I'm very, very excited to see where they go from here. As the American League champions, you need to look at a way to upgrade the team because you were so close to a World Series. And now you're kind of trying to put yourselves over the top by making a move like this. I think Cease is going to be really good for the Blue Jays. Shifting gears, you have the Red Sox trading for Sonny Gray. The Cardinals traded Sonny Gray to the Red Sox with $20 million cash as well for Richard Fitts and Brendan Clark. Clark is a guy still in the minor leagues. I believe he was in Single A, and Richard Fitts was more of a depth piece for the Red Sox. He's somebody that was a spot starter at best, especially this past season. The Red Sox have now quietly gotten a lot of depth. You have young guys like Peyton Tolley and Connolly Early that could be commanding starting pitching spots next year. Bringing in Sonny Gray now. You have Bayo, Cutter Crawford. The Red Sox have a lot of depth in terms of the starting pitching department, and obviously what a way to get somebody like Sonny Gray with the old connection and Chaim Bloom. For the Cardinals, the fire sale has begun, and it's only a matter of time that you're going to see guys like possibly Brendan Donovan, maybe Wilson Contreras, Nolan Arenado, if they can get out of his money for sure. The Cardinals are just going to look to kind of go with that youth movement and move forward. For the Red Sox, Sonny Gray getting slotted into that rotation. I believe Sonny Gray is a very, very good pitcher. I just don't look at him as the number 2 starter you need to go out and get with Garrett Crochet, who has been a top 4, top 3 pitcher in the game this past season. His first season with the Red Sox, fantastic. But now bringing in Sonny Gray, I would imagine that the Red Sox will go and try to get another starter via trade. They definitely didn't give up a lot to get Sonny Gray, and Sonny Gray is entering his age 36 season, and he was still a really, really solid pitcher for the Cardinals. He was a couple years removed for being a Cy Young Award runner-up. Slotting somebody like him in that Red Sox rotation, sliding Brian Bayo down to a 3, potentially even a 4 starter if they can get that legit number 2. I think the Red Sox are going to be making even more moves on the trade market. On the open market, the Red Sox are going to be looking to get a power bat. And while on the topic of the Red Sox, Alex Bregman, even though this may be a nothing story, he updated his Instagram profile picture to show him in the Red Sox dugout. So maybe we'll have more on his situation in the coming days, hopefully. Regardless of that, the Red Sox have been linked to Pete Alonso. They've been linked to Kyle Schwarber. Getting one of those guys, I feel like, is a necessity because they need to replace that production that Rafael Devers was supplying them when he was here, and they never really replaced that. They were one of the weakest teams in terms of home runs. As much as I love Trevor Story, him being the home run leader for the team is not going to get it done. This is exactly the type of move you make if you're a team with playoff aspirations. Sonny Gray wants to win. He wants to be a part of a winning organization. The Cardinals weren't going to be able to give that to him anymore, and that's the reason he went to St. Louis in the first place, is because he had the idea that St. Louis wanted to win. The new regime, they're looking to go in a different direction. He waives his no trade clause that he had when he signed with the Cardinals to go to Boston. 4.28 ERA, logged 180 innings and struck out a little over 200 batters. For the Red Sox, this is a great piece to add into that starting rotation. Sonny Gray is going to be the replacement for what Lucas Giolito was supplying. Their dream offseason is getting that legit number 2, getting one of those power bats on the open market, and bringing back Alex Bregman. I think that's going to be putting them in a really, really good spot to compete for the American League. Overall, love the trade. Looking at other trades, you have the Taylor Ward trade. Orioles acquired him. In return, Grayson Rodriguez gets sent to the Angels. Grayson Rodriguez, he was a former top prospect for the Orioles, and he had the potential of being a really good starting pitcher for him. Only pitches 2 seasons for the Orioles before getting that whole experiment shelled and getting sent off to Anaheim. He didn't pitch at all in 2025. Taylor Ward, he's been one of the more consistent bats for the Angels the last couple of years. That outfield in Baltimore looks kind of peculiar because now you bringing in somebody like Taylor Ward, which I can imagine probably could split time at DH and playing in left field. But then you have Tyler O'Neill, you have Colton Cowser, and I believe there's going to be some young guys coming up that could be commanding outfield spots as well. Taylor Ward, who's somebody who can flirt with 40 home run power. This past season, I believe it was his best hitting season, his best statistical season. Yeah, Taylor Ward, 36 home runs, 103 RBIs. He was a 116 OPS plus guy and an OPS of 792, which was the second highest mark of his career. It looks like the Angels probably are going to be wheeling and dealing on the trade market because looking at somebody like Joe Adell, surprisingly, is going to be somebody who's on the trade market. Fantastic season. Taylor Ward was somebody, in my opinion, who should have been traded a couple years ago. A 1-year rental for the Orioles. I guess we'll see what happens, and then you will test the open market as a 32-year-old. Teams are always going to be looking for power outfield bats. If the Orioles stink again this upcoming season, they can just flip him, get something of value, especially if he's good. Pretty much how they did with Ryan O'Hearn. Rodriguez, if he pitches well with lowered expectations, would be a beneficiary of that. But I don't want to give the Angels too much credit because they haven't been the most competent franchise in a long time. Another trade, the Marcus Semien trade for Brandon Nimmo. Semien goes to the Mets and Nimmo heads to the Rangers. People were labeling it a need-for-need trade. I do agree with that. Brandon Nimmo, he was a very good piece. They signed him to a very hefty contract, I believe, this past season or the season before. Very good for the Mets. An underrated player, but even though while his offensive stats were really good this past season, I believe he had a career year in the home run department and RBIs. He was a tremendous defensive outfielder, but then the glove kind of lost its way this past season. So the glove takes a step back, and on the hefty contract that he signed, the Mets flip him for somebody in a 35-year-old Marcus Semien. Ever since the 2023 season where he was a part of the Rangers team that won the World Series, and he was fantastic for the Rangers that entire season. He was one of the best players in the game leading up to that year in particular as well. It was kind of like the same case of Adolis Garcia, who got non-tendered by the Rangers. Semien just was not the same hitter this past season with the glove. Fantastic. Him and Lindor up the middle defense is going to be a joy to watch. Those connections on those double plays are going to be great. The glove did not fall off, and that was something for Semien over the course of his career, was something he needed to work on. Ever since moving over to second base, tremendous defensive baseball player. And on the hefty contract that the Rangers signed him and Corey Seager to, they got what they wanted out of that investment, getting a World Series to Arlington. And people were coming into question, is Corey Seager on the trade block, or would Corey Seager request a trade? Highly unlikely. I think Corey Seager is going to be there for the long haul. Corey Seager, one of the best players in the game when he's healthy. In terms of Semien on the Mets, lowered expectations more as stability at second base. He's entering his age 35-year-old season. Ideally are in a window where they're trying to compete with Juan Soto, Lindor. They're looking to shore up a position of need in second base, and Semien's going to supply that for you. Semien, who's going to provide great defense, and then you'll see what you get with the bat. Is his best days behind him? Probably, but he can still supply something of value. Even at this point in his career, his defense is going to far outweigh the offense he provides. I have been a big fan of Marcus Semien for a long time, and I hope he does do well with the Mets. Brandon Nimmo, on the other hand, fills a position need for the Rangers, looking for more outfield help, especially non-tendering Adolis Garcia, who really wasn't the same after the 2023 season. And the Rangers just weren't that good offensively this past season. Brandon Nimmo should be able to help add some outfield stability. It looks like he's going to be slotted in potentially in left field, depending on what they do with Wyatt Langford, one of their best players now, already at such a young age. He had a great season this past year. But Nimmo is somebody you can play all three outfield positions. I would imagine they would slot him in center or left. Regardless, you get somebody who's a couple years younger than Semien, a higher offensive ceiling. And I don't hate this move for either team. I think they do address things that they needed to. On to the final story today. Anthony Rendon of the Los Angeles Angels legend. Fuck Anthony Rendon. Anthony Rendon and the Angels are nearing an agreement of a potential buyout of his contract, the remaining money on his contract. Anthony Rendon signed after the 2019 season, where he was one of the best third basemen in baseball, and he helped the Nationals win a World Series. Led the league in RBIs, if I'm not mistaken, with 127. A 7-year, $245 million contract with the LA Angels. People looked at this like the Angels finally getting some help for Shohei Ohtani, for Mike Trout, one of the worst contracts. Rendon, who hasn't played more than 58 games in his entire Angels career. Rendon's healthiest season was the 2020 COVID season. I believe he played 56 games. On that, never played more than 60 games for the Angels. An absolute shame, because he was one of the best players at his position, and ever since going to the Angels, especially in recent years, just seemed like he could care less. The comments he would make in interviews, it was definitely best for the Angels and him to come to this agreement, or at least move forward towards this agreement, because again, even the reports show that he's likely just going to retire at that point. Anthony Rendon, heists of the decade for sure. Definitely going down as one of the worst contracts in baseball history, but I'm telling you somebody who would not complain about it one bit, and that is him. At least you still have the 2019 World Series. MLB offseason is in full swing. If you guys did enjoy, leave a like on the video, share it around with your friends, and subscribe to Vendetta Media, and check us out on vendettasportsmedia.com to stay up to date with all your favorite sports. Of course, as the MLB season and MLB news keeps filing in, I'll be sure to try to keep you guys updated the best I can. Everything you want is going to be right here on the channel. And most likely you guys are going to be seeing this video on Thanksgiving, so enjoy your Thanksgiving for those who celebrate. Something I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for baseball. I'm thankful for Vendetta. I'm thankful for you guys for tuning in and watching this video. I'm thankful for my family. A lot of things to be thankful for as 2025 is getting closer and closer to its end, and on comes 2026, and hopefully bigger and better things. So you guys enjoy the holiday. For those who celebrate, enjoy time with your family, being around your loved ones. Guys, that's going to do it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next one. The world has never been more entangled with gambling. What used to be a taboo topic that could get your kneecap stolen by the mob or some shit is now plastered across NBA arenas, baseball broadcasts, and even team partnerships. I think I may have a solution, and said solution is curated by the engine of Vendetta Sports Media with Vendetta Fantasy Contest. VFC offers the, quote, non-alcoholic beer alternative to gambling. It gives fans the rush of picking spreads and money line totals without the risk of losing your hard-earned money that Mikal Bridges was going to take away from you after placing that 15-leg parlay for $5. You can use that same $5 instead of chasing payouts, and users compete for pride, rankings, and community bragging rights. You can challenge friends or join a public contest, all while testing your sports knowledge in a safe, regulated, and legal environment. VFC is built around responsible competition. It captures the excitement of predicting outcomes without the addiction-forming dopamine cycles that come with traditional betting apps, where the remorse of losing is all too familiar. At a time when gambling stories are dominating headlines for the wrong reasons, Platforms like Vendetta Fantasy Contest can be the bridge between entertainment and ethics with your help. View it as your sportsbooks meeting your favorite fantasy sports apps, bundled into one safe haven, free of the risks that these alternatives fail to protect you from. If you go to the Vendetta Fantasy Contest website and you enter this promo code, you will be able to get started for absolutely free. Definitely want to take advantage of, because this won't last forever. Vendetta Fantasy Contest is the future, and we would love for you guys to be a part of it. Vendetta Fantasy Contest could be the model for what fan engagement looks like in 2025 and beyond.